This is exam practice at 100 words per minute, and the title is Secretary welcomes attendees at the annual general meeting of society. The word groupings in the passage Secretary welcomes attendees at the annual general meeting of society. I have selected a large number of groupings for this passage, but certainly not all of them, as many of the common words that are grouped together will be very familiar to you now. Little things like we will, on the, etc. So they are in alphabetical order and not in the order in which they appear in the passage. So we're going to start with and you for and thank you. Then AGM with the line underneath for annual general meeting. That is in the title, so it gives you a chance to think of it before the dictation begins. If in a passage we have both annual general meeting and AGM dictated, then the line goes underneath to tell us that it's in full, and without the line it will read AGM. So that line is quite important. Next one, as said for as I have said before. By the end of the year. This one will be new to you. Circumstances beyond our control. So the special outline for circumstances is CRCS. Then I would suggest you need the B in it to be absolutely 100% certain that the word is beyond next. And then all we need is the TRL for control, missing out the CN blend. Circumstances be troll. Circumstances beyond our control. If you don't like it, if you feel it may be confused with another very similar phrase, you can of course write it in full. That is your choice. Next one, co-opted members. Keep the O small in co-opt. And then members, of course, is a special outline, co-opted members. For the first time, we're using the one for first, but we don't need to circle it because it's part of the whole word grouping. Easy to transcribe. Great deal of time, using the GR blend for great, putting the T through it because GR comes together, disjoining the M for time. Great deal of work. This time work, of course, would be joined on. Make sure the W looks double length. I must say, the first S going inside the curve of the M, the second S going outside the angle formed by the two straight strokes. In act for in fact, missing out the F altogether. Another one which may be new to you is item on the agenda. So just IT for item, and on the or over the top of AG for agenda, item on the agenda. We've put it on agenda. The next one, we're using one consonant to do the work of two, and that is the consonant S. So let us start. Let us is LTS, and start is S, T doubles for RT, but we're only writing one S. So that one S doing the work of two. Many hands. Now I've put the H at the side of many, sloping it the way the A indicator goes for hands. And if that seems strange to you or unfamiliar, I'm just reminding you here that we did it for on the other hand, where we had an O for on, an O for other, and we sloped the H for hand. Next one, non-members. We've got that big N like a massive horseshoe for non. And then we're joining on the special outline MMS for members, non-members. There's only two very large outlines in T-line that take up all the space between the lines. The first one is the big A, which says air. And the second one is this big N, which says non or nation. You can, of course, put two small n's instead of the big N if you wish. Next one is of the itty for of the committee, missing out the CM blend, and very similar, on the committee. Of this society, again that S is doing the work of two. It's the S of this, it's also the S of society. This next one will be one that you've not come across before because we're not using it very often. The phrase doesn't come up very regularly, but it's on the shoulders of thee. So it's the same principle of putting something over the top of something like we did item on the agenda or overall or anything like that. And we're putting the on or over the shoulders of thee. So on, then shoulders and join on the of thee. On the shoulders of thee. On the subject, on this subject. So we've got on, this with the S, and then SBJ as a special outline for subject. Now, it does mean that it's interfering with the line below because it's quite a long outline. So if you prefer, you can join on this, and then you can put subject, SBJ, as a separate outline next to it. But don't be deterred if something drops below the line because you can dodge it on the next line. Don't revert to writing your shorthand on alternate lines because that will mean that you will have to turn the page more often, and turning the page is a skill in itself and does take time. Next one we've had before, social media. Just the S for social and the M over the top for media. Some of you made a comment that you liked that grouping, and of course it does come up fairly regularly. Take advantage of the opportunity. We know opportunity is a special outline OPR. So when we write take, we change the K to a C because a curve is swifter. We just use the V for advantage because of course advantage is a special outline, ADVN, but in the grouping we only need the V. So take van opportunity or take V opportunity. Next, take this opportunity, has got the S in only for this, take this opportunity, and adding an SA on the end becomes take this opportunity to say. Isn't it magical? Isn't T-line just magical? That little squiggle says, take this opportunity to say. Oh, it's made my day, that one. Looking at that one again. Next one, until the end of the summer. And the next one, update for up to date. Again, the D of date is doing the work of two. It's the T of two, up to, and it's also the D of date. So we're writing update. Now sometimes up to date would be hyphenated, and if it is, in an exam it would be counted by the person who's written the exam as 3 words. But when you've hyphenated it, it would only be counted when it's recorded on your submission sheet as 1. So do remember, if you think, oh, I've only got 198 words here and I should have 200, remember that up to date may have been counted as 1 word instead of 3, so you haven't actually missed anything out. And then finally we've got year after year. Now when we write by the end of the year, etc., we sometimes only write the Y, we don't need the R. So year after year, just write one Y after the other. There might be quite a bit there that you want to practice quite well before you take the dictation again. Ready? Good evening, and thank you for coming on such a wet and windy evening to our annual general meeting of this society. You will see the agenda shows that this is the 49th annual general meeting of the society, but in fact this year we celebrate our 50th anniversary. That is because last year we were unable to hold a meeting due to circumstances beyond our control. We will start this evening with a report from the Chair on the year's activities, and this will be followed by the Treasurer's report. We will then have the election of the committee. On this subject, I would like to take this opportunity to say that by the end of the year, I hope to have sought the agreement of the committee that we increase our members from 8 to 12. There is a great deal of work to be done, and many hands make light work. Arranging events is particularly time-consuming and requires a high degree of organisation, as well as taking a great deal of time. I must say it seems unfair to continue to put this responsibility on the shoulders of the same few people year after year. Ready? It may be that 4 people are co-opted members. We can then take advantage of the opportunity to call on them to help out with the most time-consuming events and use their expertise regarding event organising. But before we actually ask you to complete and submit your voting slips for today's appointments, please note that non-members are not able to vote in the elections of the committee. This brings us to the penultimate item on the agenda, which is an update on the programme of activities planned for the Oakwood estate by Ken Brown, Managing Director of the estate. Ready? So finally, before I hand over to our chair, I must make you aware of the following information. This will not be our last talk until the end of the summer, because for the first time in our history, the centre will be arranging walks and visits during the summer time. Thank you for listening, and may I remind you that you can keep up to date with our future events by following us on social media. Now, as I have said before, let us start with a report on the year's activities. Let me introduce our chair, Chris Lewis. If you enjoyed this exam practice, please click like and remember to subscribe so that you will receive notifications when others are added. Good job! Let's love T-line together.